Okay, we are live. Wonderful, wonderful. Um, if you are looking for a safe space, this is not the place for you. I will be challenging your beliefs as well as my own beliefs. That's what these live streams are about. Um, and we're going to talk a little bit about the whole principle. And also, I like to bust myths, you know. So, first of all, let's say hello to the people in the chat. Jason Diablo, we have the devil here. KP Heathen, horror business. And yeah, um, yes, Beth. Wonderful, wonderful. The concept of safe space, I think it kind of became a thing with the woke people, the I, I always say, the blue-haired nose ring people. But the people who, if I'm not mistaken, it comes from maybe universities, like the campus thing that they have in places like the USA, where students they said that they needed a safe space. So that's, at least that's where the first place where I saw the concept of a safe space. And this is obviously ridiculous, because if you are in a university, you should be challenged. That's part of the reason why we have universities. They should be people, students, normally young people, they need to be challenged, like their thinking, so that they can mature and develop a sense of, critical thinking. And I believe that a lot of people out there, they really, really love the idea, especially now with Trump and his little friends in office, um, with them being in a position of power. A lot of people feel that, not only are we now getting to ridicule and ridicule those safe space blue hair nose ring people in the universities, but also we can now destroy their safe spaces. But the thing is, and this is why I'm telling you in the title, if you're looking for a safe space, this is not the place to be. You are going to be challenged here. I am going to be challenged. And I think woke had its time in a way. But now we are seeing the exact same thing on display by the MAGA people, the Christian nationalists, and especially the Christian nationalists. They demand safe spaces. They demand their faith, as they call it, to be protected, and all of that. And the funny thing is that they are doing exactly the same as those blue hair nose ring people demanding safe spaces in universities. I mean, this should be so obvious. This should be so visible to everyone out there, that what we are seeing now is a massive building up of safe spaces. This is, it's mostly in the USA, I believe, with the protection of, I mean, even in the government, they had they call it faith office or something like that. It's basically not faith office, it's a protection of Christianity. They didn't care about other religions. And that's about creating safe spaces. And I've seen, of course, on my main channel and here as well, a massive exodus from my channels, or at least they're not growing anymore. And that's because I'm not going to go along with those people and their demands. I will be challenging them. And now that they are trying and succeeding in creating these safe spaces for themselves, where their beliefs, their thoughts, and their feelings will not be challenged, it is my job to challenge that. And I think everyone should do that. On a more sinister, sinister is the word, a more sinister, the most sinister expression of this is, of course, the imprisonment and the how they imprison and the people who are protesting. Now, this is in the USA and in, obviously Russia and so on, but let's talk about the USA. It's that time of the day. In Trump's USA, they are imprisoning people who are criticizing certain things. If that's not safe space thinking on display, I don't know what is. If you support Palestine and you criticize the genocide in Gaza, you might very well be imprisoned in the USA, especially if you come there as a foreigner, like a European. We are hated, of course, by the government in the USA now, it seems. And if you come to the USA with a social media feed full of criticism of Israel, you might very well get in trouble and they might imprison you. It's already happened several times. And this is probably not as I don't know if it's in the news. Some people are, some people here are saying that they haven't seen that, but that is sadly very, very true. So I don't think that this is the time to obsess about the woke blue hair nose ring people creating safe spaces. I think this is the time to really keep an eye on the building up of safe spaces that the MAGA people are doing and then Christian nationalists are doing, because it's a horrible thing to witness. It is much, much worse than the ridiculous safe space thinking that the woke were doing. And it needs to stop. It needs to stop. And what I'm saying here is not popular. I can see that in the chat. Some people don't like that. And that's fine. It is your right to disagree. But it is not your right to counsel those people who disagree with you. Now, I don't know if I would get in trouble if I went to the USA now. I don't know. There certainly is a lot of things in my social media that would qualify for that. And this is a well-known thing. I mean, there are many examples now of this happening, and I get it. It's not, the safe space concept is not really what it hasn't been linked to that, but it is that's what it is. So yeah. The other thing, of course, is the special protection of Christianity that we are seeing now in the USA, and I mean it's subject to massive criticism by, I believe, most Christians in other countries and many Christians in the USA as well, because it's a different kind of it's different. And already Christians are talking about American Christianity, like, Christianity has branched out and split several times before. Now it looks like it's doing that. That's happening again. And it's I've noticed that it's Jesus. They don't talk so much about Jesus, do they? They talk about God, and God wanted Trump to live. So and Trump in his usual modest way said that the bullet missed him, and that was the will of God. Do you people realize how fucking dangerous those words were? Do you realize how very special it is to say something like that? It's extremely telling. And I can tell you, as someone who has been studying world history, no, that's a lie. I haven't been studying world history, European, and yeah, I've been studying history, and mostly European history, and the thing where you connect your position of power to a god nearly always lead to, and I'm sorry to say this, autocracy, dictatorship, because it's not something that you should link to yourself. If you say God wants me to be king, you put yourself right behind rulers that were not very kind to their people. Let's put it that way. And I get it. It must have been very tempting to say something like that to a crowd of fucking batshit crazy people at that point. And excuse my cursing here. It must have been very tempting. So they did. And no, I don't think, GB, I don't think that that's something that a regular person would do or say. I think that most people would not dream of saying that. I think I'm pretty sure I could, if I found myself in that position, a bullet just missed me, I would never say that God saved me so that I can rule this country. No, no. That's that says a lot about that person. Um, that says a lot about that person. But there are people like that among us. Um, but it's dangerous. Now, if you combine that with a how they strike down now upon um, those who have opinions and express those opinions, and it goes against the official narrative, we are right back at the COVID crisis, and we all know what went down, what happened during those years. I certainly paid a high price for that, for being outspoken. And I'm telling you, it's the same thing now. It's concentrated to one country, but it's the same thing happening now. And it needs to be challenged. But the problem is, of course, that, those who challenge it risk, what's the word? Repercussions. So, okay. I just wanted to throw this out here, and I find it important. Um, and this is why this channel will not be a safe space. Uh, I will not. Okay, so here's another thing. I I will not do. I will not cater to my audience. Here's something that you might already know, but um, there are people out there who are quite big on social media and also news anchors, um, quite well known, and they are paid either through the clicks here on YouTube or so on to express a certain agenda, a certain opinion, a certain um, narrative. And what we are witnessing is that these people are sitting there and watching their analytics that YouTube will give them, and they will be saying what their core audience wants to hear. They will be looking at the videos that their audience is watching. YouTube will tell you that, by the way. They will look at the demographics, and they will tell their audience exactly what the audience wants to hear. I believe that's disrespecting your audience, because it's like you're saying that you're thinking that your audience is like children. And what happens is that they get their channels grow, of course, and they make more money. That's what it's about to those people. Um, and this changes, this changes. I remember um, back in at the beginning of COVID, I remember people criticizing Trump for his crazy plans of, I still call him Mr. Warp Speed. The same people, a lot of the same people, I believe, are now part of the MAGA cult, and they see him as the savior. This is quite amazing and quite impressive. Quite impressive. The propaganda has worked well, and I mean this is about how this narrative changes. So I'll give you another example: climate change. I know for a fact. No, actually, I don't know, but I suspect. I have reason to believe that a lot of these news anchors, a lot of these large YouTubers, they understand that. I'm not talking about Tucker Carlson, extremists like that, but I believe a lot of these people, they understand that when they sit there and they say, "Oh, I was cold yesterday. What about that climate change? Ha ha ha." They understand that that's ridiculous and stupid, but they will say it because it gets them clicks, it gets them views, it makes them money. Um, and another good example, and this is the best example um, of people catering to their audience just to make money. Have you watched these? I can't watch them anymore because it's getting ridiculous now. These left-leaning channels that I've said this before. I think it's important to at least keep an eye on both left-leaning and right-leaning and centrist news channels, so that you kind of get a wider perspective. But those left-leaning channels now, all they are doing is that they are making videos and podcasts where they say that Trump is stupid and evil, and variations of that. And I mean, surely there must be a limit. When you made 100 videos with that message, we kind of get the point. We kind of get the point, but that's all they're doing, and they're pushing out videos like that on a daily basis. It's about money. Now, there are probably some people out there, some of them, they truly think that this is important. It's important to say that Trump is stupid every day. But it's also, in most cases, I think, about catering to the audience. And the audience, that audience loves to hear Trump is stupid and evil every day. They like that. So, it's about money. What if the Trump administration did something positive? Do you think that they would report on that? I don't think so. So yeah, but anyway, yeah. So this will not be a safe space. If to anyone listening, if that's what you need, you should probably go somewhere else. Let's see here. Yeah, actually, I think Tucker Carlson is one of the worst. I've heard some rumors. I don't know if they are true. That no, you know what? I won't even finish that sentence because I need more proof. But yeah, yeah, that's let's see here. I'm just scrolling up. Mr. Warp Speed. Yeah. Yeah. Shark Canine says, I love the unpopular views here, seeing people squirm. Yeah, it happens sometimes. New World Order says that the guy with the ugly little mustache survived several assassination attempts. He also made references to being looked over by a higher power. Yeah, and Um, Viking Age history is how did the Viking Age end? Well, basically, you got a Viking king in England, but in Norway, it was people wonder why did the Vikings or the Norse convert to Christianity? Well, you know, and then people have this fantasy that's being, I don't know where it comes from. Oh, it was a peaceful conversion. Uh, no, it was not. But the point here is that these kings, they used Christianity. It was perfect for them because they could then say that, well, you know what? There is one God up there, that God up there, and he's telling me that I should be king. And anyone who disagrees goes against the will of God, and therefore they must die. it's it's um, it's perfect. It's perfect. And you can't have a polytheistic belief system if that's what if you're trying to pull that one off, um, because then the chieftain over there across the fjord, he will say, well, screw you and your whoever you believe, which are the gods you believe support you, because I have support of another god, so we will fight now, and our gods will take sides and help us, so that's why you need a monotheistic belief system if you want to be the king directly under one god. That's kind of how it works. Um, so yeah. Um, yeah, basically, I think all civilized countries now understand that you need your country to be secular, because the alternative is that you have one religion that pushes out the other religions, and that's not fair, is it? And it's like, um, yeah, it should be obvious, you know. Um, do you worship the old gods? Well, I don't do the bloods. I don't really celebrate. I do celebrate Yule, or Christmas, of course. Well, Christmas is of course the Christian name for that holiday, but Yule we say here. Um, I don't really. There are people, the Norse pagans and so on. They come together for these events, basically parties and barbecues. um, but I'm no, I'm a bit lazy. I'm a very lazy heathen. But I do feel, I think about it when I walk in the woods, and I feel a presence maybe, and it's I'm open to that kind of. Um, I'm open to the spirituality of nature and all of that, and I think that's what it's about. And also, I've come to believe that it doesn't matter so much if you call yourself a Christian or Muslim or whatever. I don't care, um, as long as you feel some kind of something good out in nature, and you're able to connect with nature. I don't care what you call it. You can call it God or Jesus or Odin, whatever. So, you know, I'm not. This is, and I think that this is. I think that's a good way to go about it. You know, just connect with nature and just be person open to your feelings. Maybe it's that simple. You know. Uval, I don't know why you're so being so negative today. Um, I don't know what's going on there. You've been there for a while. I don't know what's going on with you today, but you are welcome here. But please don't call people naive and things like that. Okay. Um, hmm, yeah. Beth says nature is the best church for me. Yes. Yeah. Um, Positive vibes is stealth mode. Yeah, that's important, isn't it? Um, so, um, and Helaku says, forest is my church too. Yeah. Nature is my church, people say. And I think that's a very good saying. Um, yeah. And new country guys, the Anchor Punch Boxing News says, I think mankind has slapped too many labels on religion today. Yeah. I mean, we are only human. And I think that our ability to understand things is limited. You know, it's limited. So it's like, okay, so here's one example. Um, you hear these people saying that, oh, I can't eat bacon because I'm a Jew or a Muslim. That's ridiculous. Well, if you don't want to eat bacon, I'm sorry for you. But okay, you can choose not to eat bacon. But when you're saying that, well, it's because of my God. My God doesn't want me to eat bacon. I'm pretty sure that if there is such a God, he or she or it, whatever it is, doesn't care about you eating bacon or not. You know, I and I'm pretty sure that that thing not eating pork comes from a time where pork was often it had parasites back then, so it was not a safe thing to eat. I'm pretty sure that's where it comes from, you know. So, but it's ridiculous. The same with, you know, when they have this. That's the Muslims. They have this Ramadan. They can't eat during daylight hours. I'm pretty sure again that there is, if there is a God, he or she or it or whatever it is doesn't care about if you eat during daylight hours or not. It's a cultural thing. Okay, that's fine. You know, if that's what you want to do, but you're not. It's it's ridiculous to. Okay, Jasmine. Thank you so much for the donation. That's very kind of you. Um, that's very kind of you. You're talking about exoteric or organized religion and so on. Thank you for your donation. Horror Business saying super chat. Well, thank you. New World Order says many Native American religions emphasize a deep connection to the natural world. Yes, it seems to be a common thing in pre-Christian um, religions, um, that that connection to nature. I mean, the Norse in Norse paganism, it's very circular, like the seasons, and it's very connected to nature. Um, okay, so yeah. Towards Walker says, why do we let people from a long time ago tell us how to live now when things have changed so much? Good point. And, of course, you hear people who have actually read the Bible pointing to laws in the Bible when when certain people are using the argument, it says so in the Bible, we must follow the Bible, and so on. For instance, people being gay, that's a sin because it says so in the Bible, and so on. Well, lots of things can be found in the Bible that hopefully most people will not agree with, how to treat your slaves, how to beat your wife, and many, many crazy things, because it was written in a time of illiteracy, a time of a very different time, and most things are better now. That's a good thing, So we can't really say that, well, we have this old religious text here written by someone a long, long time ago in a very different society. So we should follow those laws. That's obviously not going to work, you know. So, yeah. And also, by the way, I've never understood the thing with this obsession with gay people. I've never understood that. I mean, I don't get it. Why would that be? Why would that affect me? Um, so, yeah. um, Laura says the Bible doesn't condone wife beating. Maybe my memory doesn't serve me well right now. Um, I don't know. But there are, obviously there are passages there in laws about stoning people and so on. You know. Carola, really, recently someone tried to tell me that Christianization liberated the women from heathenry. Wow, that's quite a statement. Yeah. Yeah, well, the gay thing, it's I think it's a bit strange, why would it affect me? It won't. So, and I saw, actually, if I saw, if anyone have watched Blackadder, uh, uh, a British comedy TV series with Rowan Atkinson. Um, if you have watched Blackadder, you will know that. Uh, yeah, okay, but he says something there. No, actually, he falls in love with his manservant, who is, and he then thinks he's become gay, but the manservant is, of course, a woman in men's clothes, and so he goes to the doctor, and the doctor is obviously he's all about leeches and horrible stuff to be cured for the gayness. But then, because of leeches, I think he decides to be gay, because and just go about with his gayness. And then he, of course, discovers that the manservant is a woman. But anyway, the doctor says something along the line, so um, that it's kind of a good thing. That no, yeah. But anyway, the doctor says that the more people who are gay, the more women for us other for us straight men. That was the point I was trying to get to. So actually, mathematically, people being gay is a good thing for straight men, right? If you follow my line of thought there. Okay, bit of a joke there. Yeah. Mm. New World Order is asking about a great flood event in Norse mythology. The thing is that, no, you said Norse culture history. Yes, and yes, we don't like to use mythology about that. Slip of the tongue there. Um, Not a significant flood like that. But it's all a lot of it is lost, of course, even though pre-Christian Norse culture was a culture with writing. They would write things down, but it was limited because it had to be carved in rocks and stuff like that. I think my guess is that some people would have had stories about that, because I don't know. I don't know how much, how for in a society without books, like before that, the Bronze Age and so on. I don't know if they knew, if they had an oral tradition of retelling the story of the flooding of that separated the British Islands from continental Europe. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I think we all, concerning the gay thing, the and all of that trans thing, and as stealth mode here says, we don't really care so much about that, as long as it's kept away from children. And I think that is something that most people most people share that opinion. It hasn't got anything to do with religion. It's just common sense, you know. It confuses children, and also children should be children. They shouldn't be um, subject to what's the word? They shouldn't be sexualized, and they shouldn't. I mean, they should be just children and do things that children do. You know, leave them alone. And yeah, yes, Doggerland. Yes, that was the yeah. um, Yeah, interesting here, kingdoms and kobolds. The odds that humans have gotten to a high level of technology previously in history, and it was all wiped out by various cataclysmic events. Yeah, well, I think I'm not qualified to answer that. I think an archaeologist would be better qualified. Maybe it's possible, but then you would have to have virtually all traces of that culture wiped away and or buried, something like that. So I don't know. I don't know. Um, hmm. Wendy is saying children and violent content in children's media. Yeah, you know what? I have an unpopular opinion here. I don't think children should play violent video games. I don't think children should watch violent movies or horror movies. I think that if you think that children can be um, disturbed, affected, and so on by um, transgender things in schools and so on, kindergarten. Well, I think it's fair to assume that they can also be affected and by violence. You know, like a what's the word? A idolization of using violence. And also, it's not necessary, is it? It's not necessary. Why? I mean, children they don't. They, why do children need to play video games where you shoot people? Why? I can't remember that I had any need for that when I was. There were no video games when I was a child, of course, but why? Why? No, no. Keep children away from that. You know, keep children playing. Let them play. Let them be outside and be physical and do kids things. You know, yeah. Smoking Wraith says, not convinced it's healthy for anyone to fantasize in violence, children or adults. I absolutely agree. I hate movies where they speculate in using violence. I hate that. Um, I hate that. Air Hammond says, some Viking talk, this is LOL. Well, actually, did you know that the Viking culture or the Norse culture was not as specifically, it was not a very violent culture. That's the TV series version of it. That's the modern Hollywood version of it. um, because you couldn't. Well, obviously it was a different time, but you couldn't solve problems with violence unless you could back that violence up, and most people could not. They had to work together. Um, so, yeah. And I think that we tend to, when it comes to Viking culture, we tend to forget about how, if you look at the pantheon, the gods, and all of that, it represents all aspects of life. And at just one part of it is about war, battle, and all of that. And that's the part that people that have been used by um, popular culture these days. You know, so it's a it Norse the Norse belief system has symbols representing all aspects of life, nature, death, everything. um, yeah, it's yes, they've been hugely misrepresented. Absolutely, it was a society. Well, again, it's different. It was different. It was a different time. It's like saying that, well, they had feminism back then. No, they did not. But also, what you are referring to is that women had a vote in the if they were widowed, they had a vote for their deceased husband and so on. They could divorce their husband and so on. They could participate in sports up to a certain age, at least. Um, but so it's a it's I understand why people who make movies, they pick the violent parts, because that's the exciting stuff. That's what sells. That's what people want to watch. But it's that's just one part of it. You know, it's easy to find old cultures that are much more uh, focused on violence. It's quite easy to find that. Um, yeah, but not. I'm not saying that it was an honor culture, of course, and going to battle was part of life, at least to some people. Going into battle. So, but anyway, uh, so yeah, shield maidens. Yeah, yeah. I think that's something that did not happen very often. The thing with the shield maidens. Um, how much of that honor culture do you think remains today? Well, that's a difficult GB. That's a difficult question to answer. I don't know. Wars are obviously very different now. There is no honor in war. Like, was there honor in war back then? We should not romanticize war, but at least we know now that war now is not. It's very different, and it's being fought for very different reasons. No, or no, maybe we always fought for the same things. But yeah, let's not get into that discussion there. Um, Uh, yeah, Hotep. Yeah, Vikings were like pirates. Occasionally fought dragons. Well, the Vikings were warriors, of course, but I it's difficult for me to talk about mm, those people, that culture, without using the word Vikings, because in Norway we say Vikingene, the Vikings, about the people back then. But it's not correct to say that, even though it's part of our language. It's not really correct to say that because only a few people were actual Vikings who went Viking. It's not a verb, by the way, but they went Viking. That was a thing. So they would do that sometimes during the summer, some summers, and most people never did, probably. So I should say the Norse. I should say the Norse. That's the correct way to say it in English. It's just I tend to say Vikings because we say Viking in Norwegian. Yes, Carola. Yes, the museums also use the word Viking. They do. Um, um, so um, yeah, myths about dragons. As far as I know, the dragons in Norse mythology are not dragons. They are something called a lindorm, which is like a giant snake, more like not like a fantasy style dragon, but like yeah, like a big snake with maybe with little legs. Lindwurm, is that in German? Uh, and there is a theory concerning these fantasy creatures that people believed in back then, that they found fossils, uh, and they tried to make sense of them, like dinosaur fossils. And if now, I'm not an archaeologist, of course, but if you find like one of those giant sea creatures back in that time, with a big mouth with big teeth, big jaw with big teeth, and a long spine, maybe then you would assume that, oh, that's the skeleton of look at this, must have been a giant snake, you know I don't know, it's just a theory. I think it's an interesting theory. But okay. Um, let's see here. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. I think I I think it's the best theory to explain why people in different cultures have believed in dragons. Those remains of the dinosaurs. I say dinosaurs, but that's probably not correct. Well, giant, big scary, the remains of giant big scary creatures from the past. Yeah. So okay, interesting discussion here. And yeah, I'll end this live stream now. Melody Macmin says, I found a shark tooth bigger than a flounder on my beach. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Have a wonderful evening or morning. We will talk soon. Okay. Bye bye.